Hi, and welcome to the Week 7 lecture. Including this week, you only have 3 more weeks of instruction before the course is over. Since things are racing to an end, I will spend the first part of this lecture reviewing the calendar of assignments you have left to complete. Concurrently, I will explain and discuss Project 3 in more detail. To conclude, I will discuss this week's topic, data visualization, and will walk you through how to complete this week's homework. The topics of the next 2 weeks will prepare you to complete Project 3. This week you will read about and practice visually representing data, and next week you'll do the same with digital design. I focus on these topics in part because they are important skills to have and hone as a professional writer. The other reason for featuring these topics is because you will need some foundation for creating visuals and creating simple web pages in order to do Project 3. Let's look at that assignment sheet now, and I will explain the project more thoroughly. If you take a look at the objective, you will see that the project deliverable, that is, what you will turn in to me, is actually a web page. You will use Adobe Express, one of the apps in Adobe Creative Cloud, to make this page. Not only do you all have free access to this tool as a UAB student, it is very simple to use. It is so simple, in fact, that many of you will probably be frustrated by its limitations. If that's the case, feel free to email me and ask permission to use a different platform. However, Express creates nice looking web pages that are versatile, easy to build, easy to keep up to date, and accessible to broad audiences. Next week's lectures, reading, and activities will prepare you to use Adobe Express web page design. I will also be available during office hours and during individual appointments should you need one-on-one tutorials about this tool. In other words, don't worry about the web page part of the project now. Your concern will be doing the research required to gather information to later shape up and publish as a web page, and also to start thinking about data visualization. Another thing to note about the deliverable is that the purpose of the web page is not to present an argument or some critical evaluation. Rather, the web page should be a report that informs an audience of your peers about a specific kind of professional writing job. The word report, according to our book, quote, is used to refer to hundreds of different types of writing communications, end quote. However, the book defines report for the purposes of professional writing as, quote, an organized presentation of factual information prepared for a specific audience, end quote. As a philosophy undergraduate student and then PhD student in the English department, I rarely, if ever, wrote reports. Instead, my writing was almost always argumentative, presenting my unique thesis and offering evidence and support to back up the claim and persuade others to buy into it. I'll bet that you as English majors are similarly experienced in argumentative writing and inexperienced in report writing. While every report has an author and every author has a unique perspective and will choose certain sources over others, a report aims for neutrality and objectivity, while argumentative writing is explicitly persuasive. We know that complete neutrality and objectivity in writing is ultimately impossible. There is no such thing as fully objective reporting. However, writing reports is more like writing journalism pieces than writing term papers, as reports ask you to gather, organize, and present information rather than take a perspective on that information. For this project, your purpose is to give fellow students a thorough overview of a specific kind of professional writing job or field. A student should be able to read and look at your report, then leave knowing specifically what the work involves, what kind of training they need, how to seek this kind of employment, and whether or not they are interested in pursuing the work. This means that first, you need to choose a kind of job or field to research. Perhaps you already have an idea about a job or area you are interested in writing about. You could return to the week 1 homework page and find and explore that original list of the 4 different kinds of professional writing categories we looked at, which were grant writing, medical writing and editing, copy editing, or communication specialist. Maybe you were interested in technical writing from our work in writing instructions and you want to research this field. There may be another job entirely that we have yet to discuss but that fits into your understanding of what professional writing is. This week during the homework, you will let me know what job or field you are thinking about researching, and I will give you feedback about whether this is appropriate for the assignment. The next part of the project will be to conduct research about the job. This means going to tried and true secondary research sources such as library databases, Google, and some of the professional writing sources are book lists in Chapter 4. As I mentioned in last week's lectures, this project also requires you to complete 2 out of 3 research activities. You can use LinkedIn to do research, look up job ads on employment sites, or conduct an interview with some professional. This could be anyone you know or even someone you don't know directly, but you contact via email or over the phone to ask for an interview. If you want to interview someone but are having trouble finding the right professional, reach out to me for ideas about how to find the right subject. As soon as you have decided what job or field you'll be researching, go ahead and get started on these research activities. You can see the specific requirements of the project between 12 and 1,500 words, reliable sources, and documentation, and one unique visual representation of data or information from your research. For the next portion of this lecture, I will discuss data visualization in broad terms and explain what I want you to create for this assignment. As you will see, this can be as simple or complex as you'd like to make it. After completing the reading, after taking a look at some of the resources I share with you, after completing the Adobe Express tutorial for this week's homework, I think you'll be more confident about what to do for the project and how to accomplish it. Data visualization has always been incredibly important to texts. Something as simple as weather forecasts, whether in print or digital, always use some kind of visualization to represent the numerical information about temperature or airspeed or rainfall. Your banking app, for example, probably has some visual element that helps you, quote, see your financial situation. Information is everywhere, and humans are better able and more willing to engage with visuals than they are to wade through long written texts or look at numbers. Recently, data visualization, or data viz, as it is perhaps annoyingly called, is becoming an important area of study in English rhetoric and composition. This makes sense as data on its own has little use and actually needs an author to fit it into a context that makes sense for their audience. An article on Tableau sums this up nicely by saying, quote, data visualization helps to tell stories by curating data into a form easier to understand, highlighting the trends and outliers. A good visualization tells a story, removing the noise from data and highlighting the useful information, end quote. Professional writers in many fields work with data of all kinds. Sometimes these writers must take raw data or information and shape it into something meaningful to audiences. Often these writers are involved in the process of designing and developing visuals to accompany the texts. For this course, I do not expect you to become an expert at data visualization. Rather, I want to introduce the concept and invite you to start thinking about how visuals play a role in our world and how you might incorporate them into your compositions as a professional and as a student. For the purposes of this project, you will need to create a unique visual that represents some data you find in your research. My definition of data here is also quite broad. It is up to you to choose whether you want to represent quantitative data, numbers that is, or qualitative, information that describes qualities or characteristics. You might make a line graph that demonstrates the change of salary over time for some job, or you might create a flowchart that represents the different ranks of some profession. Ideally, you create and use a visual to help some important details stand out to readers or to help make a point more forcefully. For the project, you may find this less organic. Maybe there is not some piece of information that is crying out to you, asking to be represented visually. You might have to pick something arbitrarily. Nevertheless, completing this part of the project will help familiarize you with the process of data visualization, finding information to represent, taking stock of all the options for how you might represent it, then using some tool to create the visual. In the Week 7 module, there is a page where you will find the following resources among others. First, I've included a link to our library's course research guide that focuses on data visualization. It gives some helpful theoretical overviews to help you understand the principles of data viz. You can also find some examples of different kinds of charts, tables, and graphs that are available to you to represent your information. Next, there is a tab that gives you options for various tools you can use to represent your information. Lastly, you can look at some compelling examples for inspiration. While you do not have to use this tool, part of your homework this week is to practice going through the steps of making an infographic using Adobe Express. You all have access to this as a student. To access, use the link I provided in the homework page of the Week 7 module. Here's the link to access Express and other Adobe apps if you haven't already done that as a student. So I'll show you how to do this. You go to this page and you're going to click Sign In. I'm already signed in, so maybe I should sign out. Let's try that again. You go here, you click Sign In. Then you're going to enter your school email address and click Continue. This is really important. You must click Company or School Account, and then it's going to ask you through your Duo mobile app to log in. Once you've accomplished that, you will go to View All Apps and Services. Access your apps and services. And next go to Web. Here is where Adobe Express exists. It's also over here on this side of the pane. Click to launch, and you're good to go. Once you've opened Express, access the tutorial for homework. So you're going to follow this tutorial. When you click the link, the first thing you'll see after the title is here. It is a button that links to the files you will need to download in order to complete the project. Next, you will find a video that walks you step by step through how to make what I'm asking you to create in Express. When you finish, you should have a link or JPEG or file of some kind to share with me on the discussion board to demonstrate that you understood how to use this tool. You have a video as well as written instructions as well as screenshots that should help you go through this process. You can use Express, which is here, to create whatever visual you come up with for Project 3. However, at the end of the day, you are welcome to use any tool, Canva, Excel, whatever. And you are able to use any kind of visualization for Project 3 as long as you are the creator. In other words, do not take a visual from existing research, find some information to represent, and then work to build one yourself. To conclude this video, let's take a look at the other part of the homework to make sure you understand my directions here. I ask you all to read pages 163 through 167. However, on pages 167 through 194, there is specific information for several kinds of visualizations. You have information for tables, graphs, picture, drawing, flowchart, organization chart, map, and infographic. Instead of reading that entire section, you should just choose one type of visual that you'd like to read more about. Preferably, you think about what kind of visualization you might use for Project 3 and read more about that one. Once you've completed your reading, you'll write a minimum of 300 words to respond to these 4 questions. I will respond with specific feedback to number 2. This is where you propose what you're going to research for Project 3. With any technology, there will be barriers and things to troubleshoot. If you are having problems working with Express, contact me as soon as possible. It's very easy for me to hop on a Zoom call and share screen in order to help you out. Please reach out with additional questions and concerns as usual. I'm back in town after a long hiatus in Maine and Massachusetts. This means that I'll be grading Project 1 and peer reviews ASAP, so look out for feedback soon. Enjoy your data vizzing.